Tuesday with Thompson. PT's here. Peter?
Michael, bros, I'm not touching any balls. Thank you for asking.
Wow. All right.
Happy New Year.
To you too.
You all right over there?
Hearing my girlfriend in the background saying, "You're so stupid. Don't say that on the radio."
She's right. I mean, you're just so juvenile.
Yes. What a horrible man I am.
All right, Peter, let's get down to business here because I think people would like to hear your reaction to what you saw Sunday night.
I mean, my initial tweet, I went back to look at it because I haven't been tweeting as much during the Eagles games. And when it happened, I wrote, Sudfeld going in the game at this point, the Giants players and fan base must be going nuts. First, Doug doesn't take the chip shot field goal. Now, Nate freaking Sudfeld. Wow, right? It took the people a little bit to realize what was going on. I was a little slow on the uptake there. Shocking, right? To realize that Tankadelphia was happening right in front of my eyes. And then
wait, did you go into the game like hopeful for a victory?
Yeah, didn't you know that prior to just seeing the roster would pretty much tell you that, wouldn't it?
No, did I go into the game hopeful for a victory? I'm an Eagles fan first and foremost. I always would like them to win the game. Secondly, when I saw all the people that were out, I didn't think they had a chance to win the game. But, you know, the fan in you first and foremost, when you're that close in the game, you look at it as a fan. And I saw it as a chance to tie the game up at 17 easily. And maybe, you know, the Washington football team was doing just as good a job as trying to hand the victory over as the Eagles defense was with takeaways and, you know, but the offense was pathetic. And so I thought it was a winnable game, you know. So didn't I know that was possible going in? Sure. But I didn't think it was going to display itself in such a visceral way. And then it ended up being so obvious.
Okay, knowing what you now know with, you know, they lost because the draft situation, does it bother you that they lost the game in the manner that they did?
Does it bother me? Like, I'm not one of the people that are talking about the integrity of the game, and I'm not so, like, outrageous as, like, that's an embarrassment to the National Football League and all that. I mean, or they should be fined draft picks. I mean, some people were really going nuts, you know. I put it up on Facebook after the game. I haven't done this in a while either. I said, let me hear from you. Keep it clean. Your thoughts about tonight's Eagles game and the decision to pull Jalen Hurts from the game are... And do you know how many comments I had, Michael?
Yeah, 161.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, whoa! I just kept getting notifications on my phone that
you had as many comments as you do former jobs listed on here.
Yeah, well, you know, it says you're supposed to list all the jobs, so I listed them all. I mean, that's also you can look at it the two ways. Boy, what a distinguished career the PT has had, and then the opposite side is you've been fired that many times.
I mean, so they lose the game. People are outraged, but where does it leave them now? Like, you're hearing these reports that some of the players were not happy about it, that some had to be restrained on the sideline. So, I mean, you know me, I could care less. Like, they lost the game, like the integrity stuff. Look, they beat the Saints one week, and you're like, okay, maybe that'll carry over to the next week. They lost again the next week and looked just like the Eagles did every other week. People act like this game, if they win or lose, the way like it's going to carry over. You know when they play their next game, September. You know how many guys of this roster will be on that roster? Probably 15. So I don't see any carryover except from the coach. And there's certain guys who might look at this coach differently now. Is that a problem?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. The people that seem to have the most problem with it, they showed Jason Kelsey, and there's no guarantee that Jason Kelsey will be back again next season. Or, you know, I mean, people that were upset about it. Look, Jalen Hurts will be back, but there, you know, who knows what position Jalen Hurts is going to be in? Is he going to be the starter? Is he going to, you know, I mean, none of this stuff is written in stone. So to me, that was the one thing that I was worried about. And Doug was asked that question several times of, you know, but don't you think that, you know, you lose the locker room by doing that? And there's a lot of people who have the theory that he was told to do this. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think Doug just, you know, the light bulb went on. He was dropping hints in the NBC broadcast pre-production meetings. Like when he met with Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth before the game, or in their meeting that they do like 2 days beforehand, he slipped in there. Look, Doug, everybody likes to think Doug's a moron. Doug's pretty calculated, right? He made sure he said like, "Oh yeah, we'd like to see Sudfeld at some point." He's putting that in there so that hopefully they don't rip him when he does run Sudfeld in. The thing is the timing of it. In a 3-point deficit with 12:30 something left to go in the game, that's when he did it. And that's when it became blatantly obvious to me and everybody else that, oh my God, we're watching a tanking on national TV. I heard you yesterday, Gil, and I agree with this. If you're upset about it, be upset at the league. They're the ones that flexed it into this big primetime game and played it up as it had all these ramifications. If this happened at 1 o'clock on a Sunday game in week 17 that nobody gave a hoot about, it wouldn't have gotten into this stratosphere of where it did. But, there was things I missed. I didn't see that Jalen Hurts was mouthing like, that's not right, So, Jalen Hurts is going to say the right things when he gets in front of the media. But the reality is I think he was pissed off that he got pulled from the game, especially at that point.
Yeah, just to backpack a little bit with this Jeff McLean article, he does say in this that even though Hurts was told that on Wednesday there was a chance Sudfeld could play, he couldn't understand why Pederson would make the switch that in that part of the game. And then just to keep going, Eagles players and assistants had no inclination that Sudfeld was part of the offensive game plan. And if they did, they figured it would be abandoned because of the tight score. So it's pretty much the communication factor that seemed to throw everybody off. And I guess when you look at how this entire season played out, that was coming from top to bottom through every single person in this organization. A lack of communication has been one of their biggest issues. This just defines that even more.
Right. And then the thing that worries me moving forward, Broads, is like, so the inclination or the tea leaves are that Doug's going to be back, right? All the indications are that Howie's going to be back. Okay. So then you sit there and you ask yourself, is changing Jim Schwartz out for, I don't know, Anthony Lynn or somebody else that just got fired that's better as a defensive coordinator than a head coach? Is that enough alone to revive what's really a bad football team? You don't get to be 4-11-1 by being a good football team, and they're bad in several places. So I'm not very optimistic about how the offseason is going to go, but at the same time, I sure do want to see what all the moves are and what they do.
Let me ask you this then. A couple of years ago, it was like 8 years ago, they went 4-12. That was Andy's last season. And that team was decimated by injuries on the offensive line, if you remember that. Do you recall?
Mm-hmm. I do, yes.
They fired Andy. They brought Chip Kelly in. And voila, the line was healthy. And they won 10 games. I don't think anybody believes Chip Kelly is a better coach than Andy Reid, but Chip Kelly had the fortunate ability to use an entirely new offensive line that Andy was not given. So, could I make the argument that if my offensive line is back healthy next year, I'm not as far off as you, Pete Thompson, just made it sound like they are?
Yeah, you could argue that, and yes, I do remember that. I think the pieces around the offensive line got the headlines, but I think the pieces around that, the defense was in a better place at that point, and I think that some of the offensive weapons that they had, especially maybe at receiver at that point, wasn't that a very young Deshaun Jackson, and wasn't it Michael Vick that came in on his first game with Chip Kelly and lit up at the time the Redskins, right? I don't know that the Eagles, where's their burner? Is Jalen Reagor supposed to be their burner?
Well, they still have Deshaun Jackson.
Right, yeah. That's a shell of what Deshaun Jackson
actually
used to be,
when he plays, he's still pretty darn good.
Yeah, the problem is he gets one play in there. Imagine if he could play 10. Yeah, get 10
right.
home run hits.
Did they deem that he was too good, that we can't put this guy out? He's too good. We don't want to win these games. We got to get him off the field. No. Was he really that hurt?
That was the funniest, some of the funnier memes that I saw immediately in the wake of everybody opening their eyes up to the tanking was happening was, if Doug really wanted to tank, he would have started Wentz. I thought that was pretty funny too. But look, it was a great discussion going back and forth. I'm not going to linger on it. It's not going to hold with me. I agree with that point 100%. That when the Eagles fans get to the start of the next preseason and the season's get ready to go, it's not going to mean a hill of beans.
PT, I don't even think it's I don't even think it's to next season. I think when draft time rolls around, everyone's going to be thrilled, so excited. They got this 6th overall pick. I mean, I'm talking at the draft.
No, and to further that, PT, I opened up today's show by saying the Giant fans on draft day are going to be saying, thank you, Eagles, for losing that game, because now the Giants have the 11th pick instead of the 19th pick. And guess what? They need the 11th pick, not the 19th pick. The Giant fans should be thanking the Eagles fans for not allowing them to make the playoffs.
I mean, I certainly agreed with that. There were a lot of, the whole thing with fan being the fanatic and you have irrational takes, but there were a lot of Giants fans that I saw on social media, a lot of people that responded to my Facebook post that said, look, I don't blame the Eagles at all. Don't have a stretch where you go 1-6 or 1-7 and lose a bunch of games. If the Giants wanted to get in, don't rely on the Eagles. Beat the Eagles in that game at Lincoln Financial Field when the Eagles won that infamous game where Daniel Jones tripped over the 35-yard line or something like that. Win those games, right? So I mean, I saw a lot of takes about that, which I was pleased to see some sense and sensibility on the feed instead of just irrational stuff. I told people to keep it clean, and for the most part, they did.
Tuesday with Thompson. Pete Thompson's here. It is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, and obviously this offseason ahead's got so much going on. Miles Sanders today said the players did not like this quarterback switch, and, the question is, what happens at that position next year? Wentz back, Hurts plays, or you now have the 6th pick, Pete Thompson. Do you consider a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, that's a little crazy to think about, isn't it? I mean, are you going to – when Howie uttered his infamous quote of quarterback factory, I don't think that's what he was thinking,
he did say that he regrets that comment.
As he should. That was probably that and Gold Standard are two of the ones that have come out in the last 10 to 15 years that the fan base and you and I are never going to forget about. I mean, I look at it. Look, I love Devontae Smith, by the way. I think that's a guy that would be an impact receiver and a nice fit. The kid out of Alabama. I'm a big fan of his work. But, isn't the Heisman Trophy ceremony coming up tonight even? I mean, so there's impact players to be had, although, if they could get a look, the kid from Ohio State looked pretty darn good in the semifinal game. I was watching those rainbow throws go down the field. But that would look good in a pro uniform if that could be replicated, right? But I don't know. Look, the 4-game sample size, was that enough for you? Do either of you guys honestly think that Jalen Hurts showed you enough to call him a franchise quarterback? I wouldn't say so. I think he showed me enough to show me that he's a winner, and I like his attitude, but I'm not ready to, put the franchise on his shoulders yet.
No, I don't think you hand him the keys and say, hey, this is all yours. But I think he has definitely given you enough intrigue where you can give him an opportunity to earn that type of respect. And I just wonder, when Miles Sanders comes out and says, we were not happy with the quarterback change, is that because of just the message it sent in general, or does it have something to say about Jalen Hurts, the individual, that they felt maybe Jalen Hurts was getting disrespected and they were looking at it from that aspect?
I think it's probably more the first than the second, but you could argue that it's a little of both. I mean, the bottom line is we're on a three-point deficit in a game that was winnable, and the Washington football team kept trying to find ways to hand it to them, even after they put Sudfeld in. Sudfeld tossed an interception. He fumbled the Kelsey snap on his next possession. He was ineffective. I mean, it was just such a blatant, obvious thing, and that's why I think everybody got up in arms. But for what Miles Sanders said, I mean, that's just natural. He's just being honest, and look, we love honesty. For honesty to come out, for him to say that, goodness, because that's what everybody was thinking, and I'm sure you guys saw the images of the guys that went back out afterwards after they realized they played their last game too, probably as an Eagle. The one that I'm so baffled about is Ertz, because I love Zach Ertz. I think he.
Well, what are you baffled about?
Well, because he has a year left on his contract.
Well,
you know what I mean?
He's making $8.5 million. I mean, they're in cap purgatory. I mean, that's not hard to figure out.
I'm just baffled about the fact, all he has to do is go play out his contract, or if he really wanted to be the team player, he could come back and say, I'll play for 6.
I wonder if that, when I saw him
money.
crying, I wondered if there was like a reality check in there where it's like, I love this place that much where I would be willing to do it. I don't know if the Eagles would, but that came across my mind.
You saw the other layers of the onion. He's got like a family member that's going to Temple. He's bought a house. He's putting roots down in the area. No matter where he plays football next year, he's going to call Philadelphia his home. But I thought that was a little interesting to me.
Look, and all these guys have the ability to say, you know what, I love it here so much, I will help the team out. I know you have cap problems, and I want to help that out. I will take less money. He's not doing that.
Well, exactly. And I mean, the last time we talked about, you're going to help the team out. Like Jason Peters was going to help the team out when the guy got injured in preseason, right? He was going to help the team out and come in and play, but only if he got a little bit more money.
The difference is, though, is like we've never seen that type of emotion from someone from, that part of it. We've never seen it to that degree. People would say, oh, Nick Foles loved it here so much, he would take a pay cut to be a backup. Different story, though. Like, have we ever seen someone pour tears out like that to the media in that way? I just feel like it adds another layer to the conversation.
Yeah, maybe Dick Vermeil when he said he was burned out and he couldn't coach anymore. I mean, that's another guy that cries in front of the cameras. Listen, I have no problem with it, and I think most Philly fans don't. They love emotion, right? And they love passion. They love reality, like a real take. And for him to get upset about the fact that he realizes maybe his time's over, and listen, this all goes back to the fact that he and Howie kind of were trying to, or his agent and Howie were trying to have contract talks, and obviously they were on different ends of the negotiation. So I mean, that's where everything started. But he's still going to be a serviceable, if not above serviceable. Serviceable. I shouldn't say that. I should say above serviceable. I mean, the guy's still a top tight end when he's healthy. Okay, he's at least a top 10 tight end in the league when he's healthy.
Well, nobody's debating his. Easily. By the way, he had a horrible year this year. That's number one. Number two, nobody's debating that he still has years to give. It's just the Eagles have cap problems. They have a player behind him who can fill his spot. It's not like they're getting rid of Ertz and have nobody. It's not like they're going to Josh Perkins. I mean, they drafted a guy who's been a pretty good player. So, I mean, this is a smart move.
Yeah, it's a good business move. It's what they did with Malcolm. But with the Malcolm thing, they didn't even have someone to fill the role. Here, they did, I guess McLeod, but it's a different vibe for sure. But this time, they do have that backup.
Well, and this is purely a business cap decision. This is not Ertz, you're old and you can't play anymore, although he did not play very well this year.
Yeah, I mean, to your numbers, Mike, there's $73 million that are projected to be over the cap. So $73 million, that's where you say goodbye, Alshon Jeffrey, thank goodness. Sorry, Deshaun Jackson, it didn't work out 2.0. We'll always remember that first game, and then you couldn't play again, right? Marquise Goodwin. You cut all those salaries, that gets him $17 million, but you still have to figure, like, there's even guys like Derek Barnett's projected to make $10 million base salary. Jason Peters, they'll probably wave goodbye to you. Jalen Mills is another contract you have to think about. Vinnie Curry, Crevon LeBlanc, and Nick Roby Coleman, they're all scheduled to be free agents. I mean, there's all kinds of things that have to be addressed. But I mean, they did get reworked contracts to free up some space for a couple guys, I guess. But the reality of it is that this team, like you said, Gil, is going to be vastly different when they take the field again in the preseason next year to start the next season. And I'm okay with that.
Right.
When you go 4-11-1, you should look different.
Different for a good reason. Like, you think about the last game the other night. You had Pryor playing left tackle. He'll be gone. Toth was the 5th or 6th. I just saw a tweet from Jaworski. This season, the Eagles used 36 different players on offense. That's the most in the NFL. And they played 39 different players on defense. And many of those guys we will never hear from again. I tweeted something out the other night, Pete. If you had, and I listed like 9 guys. I mean, I can't remember. I said, if you had them all being on the field at the same time, go cash your ticket. And then I kept adding, like, this guy also got in. I mean, it was just a joke. So I think the Eagles fans need to understand that while this season was embarrassingly bad, It was it embarrassingly bad because the organization and the team is a dumpster fire, a.k.a. Detroit, your typical Clevelands, your typical Buffaloes, those teams that just could never get it right? Or was it embarrassingly bad because of injury? And I think that's what we have to try to balance.
Yeah, injury obviously had a lot to do with it, and I think they did find some diamonds in the rough, too. I mean, do you think Alex Singleton, for example, ever – look, I think that guy can play. He's not like a top-notch, like going to grace the cover, go to the Pro Bowl kind of player, but, I mean, the guy has ability and deserves to be in there, For a brief period of time, I thought that Travis Fulgham was a diamond in the rough that they found. So I think when you do get that many injuries, you do find some people – sort of off the scrap heap, if you will, or you bring some people in and find out that they're talented. The reality of it is that they just tried to hold on to some of the aging guys for too long, and were banking on these guys being able to stay healthy, and they weren't. I mean, specifically on offense, Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson are strike one and strike two of guys that you were counting on for production out of and big things out of, and they were non-existent. They weren't there.
Peter, are you changing or getting excited about the Sixers? Changing expectations or getting excited?
I voted for not changing my expectations. They already were pretty high to begin with. A, I thought they were a playoff team who's constructed, and B, I thought with Doc Rivers in there that they could be a team that could contend for the East, to make it as far as, say, the Eastern Conference Finals. So I haven't changed anything. The thing that I'm most pleased about is a couple things. One, I think Dwight Howard is an unbelievable influence on the players, right? You can have Red G.D. Auerbach in there, or have some, you could have John Wooden, some Hall of Fame coach in there. The reality is the players tend to listen to players first and coaching second. So I think that guys like Dwight Howard have been a great influence to come in on some of the younger players, especially Joel. Two, and Joel's the key. I mean, Joel being healthy and being able to put up the numbers that he has is a big reason for their hot start, 6-1. But then the other thing too is Doc Rivers' style, and I mean what they've been able to do on defense sometimes. They're still sort of congealing and gelling, right? But I mean, there's been some times where even when you turn it on, you think like, God, why is this other team even winning this game, or why are they in this? And then they sort of flip the switch and they go out and they play that high pressure defense, and defense leads the offense. And then they've had a couple laughers too. I mean, they're not always going to be able to shoot the lights out, which they did the other night, which was great to see. And then you're seeing all the way at the end of the bench guys come in and play. But I think, Joel's been unbelievable when he plays. Obviously their only loss came when he didn't play. So my expectations haven't changed. They were already high to begin with, but I sure am excited with what I've seen so far.
All right, and then the Flyers next Wednesday, a week from tomorrow, Peter. It is a 5:30 odd start time for the season.
I think they're doing that for TV, if I'm not mistaken, because I think they're trying to, they're probably going to do some massive splash of hockey. I'm excited about them too. I love seeing that. The franchise goalie comes out with a quote that says, "I don't just want to be a good goalie; I want to be the best goalie in the league." Hell yeah, Carter Hart, you go. I mean, there's some question marks about who's going to pair with who, with Niskanen leaving on the defense. I want to see who they pair up with Provy on the top defensive pairing. And then, the intrigue of, are you teasing me again, or is this going to happen? Nolan Patrick, is he actually going to play? Oscar Lindblom, is he going to continue to develop? Because people forget that, he was near the top or leading the Flyers in goals when he went out, with his cancer situation. He had been in good shape and was being a contributor. So if you get both those guys back, I mean, there's a lot of people who don't think they did enough in the offseason. And yet at the same time, if you added a healthy Nolan Patrick to be a key, third line center, and you added Oscar Lindblom coming back with his development, then it's almost like adding two solid players. So, I mean, I'm excited about that. The only thing that I get a little question mark, and I'll ask you this, Broads, Samuel Moran as a left winger, a 6'7" left winger. What are they doing?
Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to get some serious time, Sal. He was a first-round pick, I think the 11th pick overall, so unfortunately all the injuries caught up to him. I do want to ask you this, though. Have you been watching any of the World Junior Championships?
Cam York, that's the guy, right?
Yeah, Cam York and Bobby Brink, nonstop. I'm watching this tournament. It's the best.
It's filthy. Yeah, it's filthy. It's been fun. I've seen some highlights. Am I watching the full games? No, but I watch the highlights.
PT, just to let you know, tonight, USA versus Canada for the gold medal at 9:30.
Oh, well, there you go. PT does have to teach in the morning, but I'll watch a period.
There you go. You can get the rest of the information that you missed on 97.3ESPN.com when Kevin Durso puts up the article.
That is true. All right.
I love Durso. I'm glad I could set you up for that. That was perfect.
Tuesday with Thompson, happy hour Friday. He'll be back. And, of course, he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Peter, take care.
All right, guys. Good to catch up with you. Happy New Year.